Most people don't fail in retirement because the market crashes. They fail because something moves slowly, so slowly that it barely feels like a problem at first. If a retirement plan is off by just 1 or 2% each year, nothing seems wrong today. Life goes on. Bills are paid. The numbers still look reasonable. But over 10 or 15 years, that small gap can quietly change everything. And that's why so many retirees share the same uneasy thought. I did what I was supposed to do. So why don't I feel secure? Retirement today is very different from 20 or 30 years ago. People are living longer, inflation compounds quietly in the background, and retirement income depends far more on individual decisions than guaranteed systems. And it's within this new reality that a silent retirement crisis begins to take shape. Inflation is most dangerous when it feels ordinary. Not when prices spike suddenly, but when they rise slowly enough to be accepted. A few dollars more at the grocery store. Higher insurance premiums that arrive quietly each year. Utilities, healthcare, everyday services. Each increase seems manageable on its own. There is no single moment that feels like a crisis, and that is exactly the risk. Over time, those small increases reduce purchasing power in ways that are easy to underestimate. Income that once felt comfortable begins to feel tighter, even though spending habits haven't changed much. The problem isn't overspending, it's that the same money simply buys less. For retirees, this matters because inflation compounds. What looks like a minor adjustment in 1 year becomes a meaningful shift over many years. So the real question isn't what inflation is doing this year. It's what a long sequence of normal years quietly does to a retirement plan. Many retirees assume their income will naturally adjust as costs rise. In reality, most retirement income does not move very quickly. Pensions, social benefits, and other fixed income sources often increase slowly, if they increase at all. Even when adjustments exist, they tend to lag behind real-world expenses, especially in areas like healthcare, insurance, and essential services. At the same time, many retirement plans are built on the idea that spending will remain stable. But life rarely works that way. Medical needs evolve. Family situations change. Housing, caregiving, and lifestyle choices shift over time. These changes are not signs of poor planning. They are normal parts of a long retirement. The challenge is that income tends to be rigid while expenses are not. When flexibility exists on only one side of the equation, pressure builds quietly. And this leads to an important realization. Managing retirement risk isn't just about how much income you have, because income on its own is only half of the story. Living longer is, without question, a positive development, but it only remains good news if a retirement plan is built to support it. Many plans are quietly shaped around shorter time horizons, even when life expectancy has been increasing for decades. The real risk for most retirees is no longer dying too early. It is living longer than expected and needing income for more years than originally planned. This matters most in the later stages of retirement. The period between ages 75 and 90 is often underestimated, both financially and psychologically. Healthcare needs tend to rise. Flexibility tends to decline. And the ability to recover from financial stress becomes more limited. Early retirement years often feel manageable. The pressure usually appears later, when options are fewer and adjustments are harder to make. The practical takeaway is simple but important. A sustainable retirement plan cannot be built only for the first 10 years. It must be resilient enough to support the decades that may follow. Many people assume retirement success depends on how markets perform over the long run. In reality, timing often matters more than overall results. A retirement plan does not require 20 years of poor market performance to be stressed. It only takes a few difficult years at the wrong moment, particularly at the beginning, when withdrawals first start. When income is being taken out while account values are temporarily lower, less money remains to recover when conditions improve. Even if markets perform well later, the damage from those early years can be difficult to reverse. This is not about predicting crashes or avoiding growth. It is about understanding that the order of events matters. The same long-term returns can lead to very different outcomes depending on when losses and gains occur. For retirees, this creates a quiet vulnerability, not dramatic, not immediate, but one that steadily reduces resilience if it is not planned for with care. Many people approach retirement having done a great deal right. They saved consistently. They invested thoughtfully. They spent decades building their nest egg. What often receives far less attention is what happens next. The skills required to accumulate wealth are not the same skills required to draw from it sustainably. During working years, growth is the priority. In retirement, stability, flexibility, and preservation become just as important. Making that mental shift is not easy. Without a clear approach to withdrawals, spending decisions can feel uncertain. People hesitate when they should be confident, or take risks without fully understanding the long-term impact. This is not a failure of discipline or intelligence. It is a planning gap that many encounter only after retirement begins. And this is where many plans quietly drift off course, even though on paper everything still appears to be in good shape. One of the least discussed risks in retirement is psychological, not financial. Many retirees begin to feel the need to constantly restrain spending. Even routine purchases are second-guessed. Not because money is gone, but because uncertainty has crept in. Every decision carries a quiet question. Will this matter later? There is also a deeper concern that often goes unspoken, the fear of becoming a burden. Whether it involves family, healthcare decisions, or future care needs, this worry can weigh heavily, even when assets remain in place. As a result, it is possible to feel anxious in retirement while still being financially stable on paper. The numbers may look acceptable, yet peace of mind feels fragile. This is why the silent retirement crisis is not just about income, returns, or expenses. It is about confidence. And without that sense of security, even well-funded retirements can feel far more stressful than they need to be. Recognizing these risks does not mean retirement is broken, or that a crisis is inevitable. The purpose here isn't to create fear, but really to bring expectations closer to reality. Many retirees, honestly, are not in trouble. What they are facing is a quieter challenge, plans built on assumptions that no longer fully match how retirement works today. Adjusting those assumptions early can make a meaningful difference. When risks are identified sooner rather than later, options tend to be broader. Small adjustments are just easier to make. Decisions can be thoughtful instead of reactive. And confidence is easier to preserve. Ignoring these issues does not make them disappear. But understanding them does not mean something is wrong either. It simply creates clarity. The silent retirement crisis is only silent because it is rarely discussed in plain terms. Once it is understood, it becomes manageable, and far less intimidating than it first appears. The most important takeaway is not a specific strategy, but a way of thinking. Strong retirement plans are flexible. They adapt as life changes, rather than relying on fixed assumptions made years earlier. Instead of planning only for the best-case scenario, they consider a range of possible outcomes and remain resilient across them. This also means reviewing plans regularly. Retirement is not a decision you make once and set aside. Periodic evaluation allows small adjustments before problems grow larger. Finally, financial security and peace of mind must be considered together. A plan that looks solid on paper but creates constant anxiety is incomplete. The goal is not just to preserve assets, but to support a retirement that feels stable, confident, and sustainable over time. This retirement challenge is called silent because it unfolds slowly, often without clear warning signs. But slow does not mean uncontrollable. When risks are understood, decisions become calmer and more deliberate. A sustainable retirement does not require perfection. It requires realistic expectations, steady discipline, and thoughtful adjustments over time. With clarity, long-term planning becomes less stressful and more manageable. If you want to approach retirement in a calm, long-term, and rational way, consider subscribing to Retire Secure for clear and grounded guidance.